Alrighty booktube, Nikki here. It's really hot, I'm gonna melt into a puddle. So I took a bit of an unplanned hiatus. Oops, my bad. But I'm back and I've changed my channel name. It's now Neon Nikki Reads because that, I don't know, rolls off the tongue better. And I also changed my other channel to Neon Nikki instead of Random Little Nikki. They still match, it's a good time. New channel, new me, same late videos. Oops. But today I have my January wrap up. So all the books I read in January. I started the year pretty slow, so I only read 5, but I'm gonna share with you what they were and what I thought of them and all that jazz right now. Also, I haven't set up my lights today because it's so freaking hot. So if I suddenly turn into like a translucent pale person or it goes really dark and shadowy, it's all right. I'm not transcending into another plane of existence. There's a cloud that's gone over the sun. I'm gonna start with the books that I like the least and then go to the book that I like the most, thusly building up the anticipation for the final favorite book of the month. First off the ranks, we have Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman and Isard Ribic. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. I meant to go look that up. That's right. I finally caught up with the big Marvel event of 2015. It's kind of complicated, but kind of not. So bear with me a second, I'll explain it to you. So Marvel is a multiverse. So there's a bunch of different parallel universes happening at the same time. The main one is Earth 616. That's the one where you've got the Avengers, and then you've got universes where everyone's a zombie. And there's a universe where it's like 2099 or something. And then there's Earth 65, where Peter Parker died, and Gwen Stacy was the one that got bitten by the spider. So we have Spider-Gwen. Besides Earth 616, the universe that was churning out the most teams and comics and stuff was the Ultimate Universe, which is Earth 1610. So in the Ultimate Universe, they did have Peter Parker, but then he died, and Miles Morales took up the mantle of Spider-Man. Wow, they really like killing Peter Parker in these alternate worlds. Marvel decided that they wanted to smush these worlds together. They wanted to bring the Ultimate Universe in with the Marvel Universe and just have sort of one entity there. And the way they chose to do that was through this story, Secret Wars. So basically in our world, a bunch of people have discovered that like universes everywhere are imploding. Crap! So they build this arc to shove in all the super scientists they have. They can't stop it in time, so whoops, bye-bye, Earth 616. But on the other side of this event, they come out of the arc on a world, and they're like, this can't happen, all the worlds imploded. But this world is made up of multiple worlds that were imploding, and someone drew them all together, made a world out of the broken worlds, and saved everybody, sort of. It's called Battle World, and there's a bunch of different parts of different worlds next to each other. It gives us cool opportunities to see different versions of characters we know and love. Miles Morales gets to hang out with Peter Parker. Two Spider-Man, what? There's like a whole league of Thors defending this world. Characters who are villains working with characters who are heroes. Individual characters get their own Battle World comics outside of this 9-issue story, but this is the main crux of the event. I think the concept of Secret Wars is pretty cool. I, for one, am just really excited that Miles Morales is in the Marvel Universe now. And I am keen to pick up some of those other titles. I really dig the art in this. It's very like beautiful and otherworldly. And the same artist does all of the issues, which means it flows really well and there's no like interruptions in the style. Thought it was a cool opportunity to explore different characters for sure. At its core though, this is a Reed Richards versus Victor Doom story. I could not, however, stand Valeria Richards. She was the most annoying character in the history of the world. And I think she represents a huge problem that I have with this story in general. So they didn't trust us to believe that this could happen. It's a comic book, mate. I've suspended my disbelief. Okay, but they kept having Valeria explain things and like use the word extrapolate. And I'm like, if you say that one more time, if you use that word one more time. I just feel like they were scared people weren't gonna buy into the idea. And I had bought into the idea, but there wasn't enough room then for story to come through. So I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like as action-packed as it could have been. Next up, we have Inside Out by Maria V. Snyder. I read Poison Study last year by Maria V. Snyder, and heck yes, on toast, it was amazing. This is a dystopian where we follow a character named Trella, who is what we call a scrub. Everyone exists in like this massive structure and it's separated into levels, and if you're on a lower level it means you're one of like a bajillion people and you just work and eat and live and that's pretty much all you do, and you don't really get a family. And then there's people on the higher levels who are kind of more privileged or whatever. Trella gets told this sort of piece of information that could change everything, but she doesn't quite buy it. Even so, she gets drawn into like this mystery and these unfolding events, and the outcome could change everything, not just for her but for everybody. The concept of this is really cool. Trella was a bit prickly. She was a bit of a prickly superiority complex type person. So we weren't like BFFs from the start. However, I think that Maria V. Snyder did a great job of developing that character. Overall, I feel about this one the way that I felt about The Winner's Curse by Marie Witkowski. I think that they're good, well-written books. Characters are believable. World building is great. The plot plays out really well, but I just wasn't feeling it. I don't think I connected with the characters as much in this one. So I could see how for somebody this could be their 5-star read, favorite read ever. But for me, it was just too heavily plotty. It It was like, oh, this has happened, so now we need to do this with this person and that with that person, and now we need to do this and that and that. I just need something a little bit more character heavy. However, the twists at the end of this book were like next level good, so I think I will read the second book in this duology sometime soon. I'm not going to say too much about this next book because it's a sequel and I'm going to do a full review of both of the books in this series. But this is The Industry by Rose Foster. I was so excited when I got an email asking if I wanted to receive this book. The first book, The Industry, came out like in 2012 or something. It follows a character named Kira Haywood, who's one of the few people in the world who can solve this code, and she gets kidnapped because that code is used for security systems and criminals would like to get past them. So she gets kidnapped and forced to like decrypt stuff or whatever, and we never got a second book, and I was like, where is the second book in this series? I found out though that Rose Foster was ill and had to be let out of her contract. That's why we didn't get a second book, and now she's self-published, The Estate. Oh my gosh. So like I said, I'll do a full review of it. I really enjoyed it. It's very different to the first book. It's more of an ensemble piece, which I think people will really enjoy. So look out for that review. It's coming soon. Guess what? I finally read a Patrick Ness book. No, it is not The Monster Calls or A Monster Calls. No, it would make sense for me to read A Monster Calls because the movie, but I just chose to read this instead. I read The Rest of Us Just Live Here. This is about a character named Mikey who is not very special. He's not a chosen one, but he goes to high school with the chosen ones who have to battle vampires and evils of the world and all of that jazz. He just wants to hang out with his friends and get through the rest of high school. Basically, this is like having a book set in Sunnydale High, but it doesn't follow Buffy or Giles or the Scoobies. It follows some random group of other students. So I went into this knowing that it was going to read more like a contemporary, which it does. And the characters in this group of friends have a lot of stuff going on in their lives, and they're just all trying to get through high school to graduation. I was surprised how involved the characters got in the whole like background plot. It tells you at the start of different chapters what is actually happening for, like, they call them the indie kids, for the chosen ones. What are they doing? And then you're reading what the characters that we're following are doing at the same time. I pretty much knew this wasn't going to be my personal favorite book of all time because I'm not the biggest fan of contemporary. YA contemporary just isn't my thing unless it's like really light and fluffy, like Princess Diaries. And these characters like to talk about their feelings a lot. It's like the Gilmore Girls of books. It's nice because it's a good representation of lots of different issues, and I was genuinely interested in what was happening with these characters. So I enjoyed it. It was very fun. Now we have the piece de la resistance. What is it that phrase? I don't even know. We have my favorite book of the month now. So I talked about Marvel's major event of 2015, but I read something a little more recent in the world of DC, which was Rebirth by Jeff Johns, Gary Franks, and a bunch of other people. Rebirth is way simpler to explain because I'm not going to explain the whole thing. Rebirth is the reboot of the DC comic world. So the last big sort of reboot that they did was called New 52. I tried to get into several New 52 titles, but what they did was they decided that in order to make it a jumping on point for everybody, they would make it so the DC universe had only existed for 5 years, which messed up a whole bunch of timelines, confused the crap out of everybody, and made for some very poor jumping on points for people who had no idea what was going on. They also changed characters' origins. They cycled through creators, like so many people were on books and then off books. I'm not saying that it was a colossal fail and that no one was reading the comics because that's not true. However, they decided that they were going to reboot the world again sort of thing, and they were going to do it with this event called Rebirth. This is kind of a one-shot explanation of the event. We follow a character named Wally West, who is one of the Flashes. I've read so little Flash, but I feel like every time anyone mentions the Flash, it's a different Flash. I'm like, wait, Barry Allen? Wally West? I was very nervous going into this because I wasn't sure if A, I could jump into this because I haven't read any of the recent canon, and B, if it was going to be any good. I did have a small amount of optimism though, because Jeff Johns and Gary Franks did Batman Earth 1, which I love, but I loved this so much. I was immediately drawn in. It was a really good idea for them to have one character who's explaining everything, sort of going into what's happening, trying to stop this from happening, but inevitably not being able to because Rebirth happens. The art is awesome and the colors are so great. And basically we get a bit of a history of what has led to this moment, what's happening now, all the characters that we're going to see in Rebirth, and it's an amazing standalone story that happens. I think it's only 93 pages. I was like, how did you do all that in 93 pages? Completely sold me on Rebirth. I want to read some Wally West. Also, I'm convinced that Jeff Johns is some sort of like creative machine that is incapable of doing anything wrong. So I'd say if you're a fan of shows like Arrow and The Flash and you're familiar with any level of superheroes, I think you can jump on to this because I knew very little about Wally West. I still haven't read much of like heaps of these characters, but I've now picked up a stack of Rebirth trades. I'm a little bit worried that Rebirth is going to send me broke. My point is, a lot of people are saying that this is DC's way of appealing to people who are already DC readers and not people from outside of comics. And I'd say, well, yeah, they need to win back a bunch of people who were ticked off by the New 52 and by Convergence and by a bunch of different things. So they do need to win back those people. But I don't think it's as inaccessible as people think it is for new readers. You just have to hop on board, know that you're not going to know everything. Wikipedia and DC wikis will help you out. So don't be afraid of Rebirth. Rebirth loves you. So those are the 5 books that I read in January. I'm a little behind my goal. I made it 120 books because I read 122 books last year. But then I realized that last year, like 35 to 40 of those books were Animorphs books, which are tiny. So I'm gonna have to like pedal to the metal, step it up a notch if I'm gonna hit that number. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of those books? What did you read in the month of January? What was your favorite read? I'm gonna go and probably read some more comic books because why not? But I will see you next time. In the meantime, tell me, are you Team Marvel or Team DC? That's backwards. Personally, I don't know if I can choose. I think the Marvel movies are definitely more successfully executed, but I think right now DC might be smashing it in the comics. It all depends on how my other Rebirth reads go. And they have Earth 1, which is amazing, and Bombshells, which is also amazing. So it's really close, you guys. I think this is my favorite page. Look at that. Look at that page right there. It's my favorite page of this comic. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm being facetious.